Hello. So today we are doing data structures and algorithm questions which are asked in interview. And today's question is merge intervals. So before I start this question, I want to just give you some quick information that if you want to watch the same video in Hindi, the link for that video will be in the description. If you want to read about this code which I'm writing here in detail in English, Hindi, or Hinglish, which is Hindi written in English form, which is your messaging language, texting language. So that documentation link will be also in the description. Do check it out. So let's discuss the structure of a function and solve this question, right? So before like understanding the question, let's discuss the structure of the function first, so that could be clear from our end. So let's select this. Okay. So as you can see, we have we are given a vector of a vector which consists of integer named intervals. So here you can see there is a interval input. It has vector inside a vector which has integers, right? So this is what this means, right? Then we have to return a vector of a vector with an integer. So we have to return this vector inside a vector with an integer. So this is what we have to do. Now let's discuss the question. Okay. Okay, so given an array of intervals which we have discussed, where there is a start I and end I. So basically, this is a start I and this is an end I. So this consists of this means one from three, which it means it consists of one, two, and three. So basically, this is a starting and this is an end of this interval. Okay, start and end. Merge all the overlapping intervals and return an array of non-overlapping intervals that covers all the intervals in the input. Okay, so let's break this down. So merge all the overlapping intervals. So overlapping intervals, like this is overlapping. How I can say that? Because 1 and 3 and 2 and 6 have common elements, which is 2. How I can see that? I can see that because the end of this is greater. Let's say we call this A. The A, this part 1 and 0. So A1 is greater than, let's say we name this as B. So B0. So if our A1 is greater than B0, that means there is an overlapping. That means this element comes inside this interval. So if we merge it, it would be like 1 to 6, because this is a common element. Then if you check that this element is lesser than this or not, or greater than this or not, and if you check that this element, let's say A1, is less than our B1, that means there is an interval, right? So this is the condition where you can find an interval. So what we have to do is we have to like go through our interval, this input, and we have to merge all the overlapping, like as I discussed, in our case 1 and 6 will be the one, then 8 and 10, then there is a 15 to 18, there is no interval, so there is no overlapping. So this will be like this, and then 15 to 18, and this we have to return this as an output. Okay, so as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm just checking whether this element, like let's say B1 is, if B1 is greater than our A1, that means we have overlapping. That means we have overlapping. And if our B naught V0 is less than our A1, that means we have overlapping, because that means the elements inside this falls under same interval, right? Okay, I hope this is clear. So how we can do this? So like we have understood the logic what we are going to apply, but uh, there is one more thing, how we will get to know and how we will traverse through this, like how we will go through all of this and check for it. So let's say if I say this is I, if I run an I loop on this, so if you can see, like for our outer vector at zeroth index we have 1 and 3. The element at zeroth index is 1 and 3. At one index we have 2 and 6. Not 2 base 6, but 2 and 6. So 2 and 6, and so on. So we have to go through this, and we have to keep on checking for 0 and 1s, right? So we can do that. But there is one more thing which we can do, which can make our life simpler. Let me introduce you to pair. What is pair? So pair is a way where you can use two different data types at the same time and solve for the problem. So in our case, we can make a data of pair of uh, int and int. What this will do, this will store our two values, and then we can check, like check for the values which we are looking for, right? We can make a pair, and it's a vector obviously. So what it will look like, let me show you what it will look like. So pair will be like this vector. So what we can do, we can make a vector of a pair. Let's say our pair is 1 and 3, then 2 and 6, then 8 and 10, and then our 15 and 18. So as you can see, every index of this vector consists of two numbers, and now we can check for these like this. So this will make our life easy. We can first initiate a pair, then sort this pair. So what it will do, it will sort the pair, so it will be like 1 2, then 3 4 5 6, and so on, and it will store, and then we can apply our logic which we have discussed about, uh, which we have discussed in the beginning of this video, right? So let's, and what will be our base condition? Our base condition can be if there is something like this, like if we have only one element, then we don't have to do anything, because there will be no overlapping or lapping, because this is the only element which is present inside this vector, right? So there's that. This is our base case. So now let's just start with our base case first. So if intervals, I have to be careful with the spellings, because is equals to 1, then what? Then return interval, because we have don't have to do anything in that case. Return intervals. So what I'm doing, I'm just saying that if interval size, if there is only one element inside our intervals, then return that element. We can't do anything with that element. So there's that. Now let's make our pair. So we will say there is a vector which stores a pair of type integer and integer. Um, let's name our pair P, right? And then we will say, okay, traverse through our pair int I is equals to 0, because we have to store the values inside the pair, because what we are doing here, what we are doing here, we are starting a loop to get this value and store it in the pair, then we will sort that pair, right? And then we will move on from there. So what we are doing right now, we are just storing the value of our interval in our pair. So for I is equals to 0, we will start from I is equals to 0. I will go for intervals dot size, and every time it will say I plus plus. Okay. So we are traversing, and then we will just push in a pair, push back in pair. So push back, how it will store the values at 0 and 1. So pair dot push back, uh, intervals, our loop, our first value. What this is, let me let me tell you what this is doing. It will traverse here at 0th index. It will take this value, which is our first value at 0th index of this vector, and it will push it into our pair vector. So pair vector is again a vector which consists of pairs. So int and int and int. So like this. So do this, and for our second value also, we have to do this for our interval first and for second value also. So this will take the values and push it into our vector. Now we have to sort the vector. So we will say sort from beginning till end, p dot end. So this will sort our vector, like our values which are stored in our p, right? So let me just erase this will sort it. And now what we can do is we have to give a vector of a vector, uh, which holds integer as an output. So we have to make an like something to store this, right? Which we can output as an, like, which will be our output. So let's make an vector. Again, vector, we can make a vector of a vector which we have, obviously, which we will output, and let's name it as answer, right? And then we can do things and store the values inside our answer. Okay, so let's make that. So let's make vector which have vector which have integer. Let's name it as answer. So what we have done till now? So we had we say this is our base condition. We wrote our base condition. We made our vector which consists of pairs, pair vector, let's say, right? Then we gone through the interval and stored the value in our vector which holds pair, and then we have sorted our pair, right? And then this will give us a sorted pair. So let's say 1 3, so 1 2 uh, 3 6 8 10 and 15 18. So now it has, now all we have to do is we have to check for this, we have to check for this, we have to check for this, we have to check for this. This is our p0. Let's say this is our pi, and we will check for pi plus 1. And if this value is greater than this, you know the gist, right? The condition for overlapping. So let me write the code, and I will tell you while I will go through that also after writing the code, so that it can be like understandable at that time. So let's say, uh, okay. So what we have to do, in, we can make a variable which can store the first first element. Let's say we can make a, okay, not this. First we have to erase this. Is this? We can make a container or a variable which can store this. Let's say one, and we can make a container which can store this, but in for our pair obviously one and two, which can store this, and then we can go through this and this and check for our p plus p, I plus 1, 0 and 1. This is an index value, so this would be 3 and 6, right? So we can do a comparison between them, and we can check whether we are on right track or not. Okay, so let's make this as what should we call? We can call it as int. Let's say start. Let's say p, our zeroth index, and to access the first element, we just write first. So this is what you say, a method for a pair. So to access the first element, this is a first. Again for pair, this is first in case of pair, and this is second. So what I did essentially, I went through my sorted vector. I went here. It has one and two. So I stored this one in our S, and let's say two in E. So to get two, I have to do P. Again, the index is 0, and because our loop is going on, because we will loop through it, sorry. So it would be I, and this would be I plus 1. So there's that. So to access the second one, we can say p dot second. So this will give us p dot second. So this will store the second element. I hope you're following it. I know this can be little tricky, but I hope that you're following this. And if you have any problem, again, there is a documentation for this code. You can go and read it and understand for it for yourself, right? I will say uh, p0 first, and then I can say e. I have given a value of e, so I will say p0 dot second, second. Okay, so this will give us first and second. Now I will just go, I will make a pointer ahead of our zeroth index, and I will just loop through it. So I will say for I is equals to 0, I will say go for I is equals to 0. Mhm. Writing this for I is equals to 0. Okay, just go through our pair, right? So I will go through the pair dot size, and I will every time increment. And what we have to do is we have to just say check for I plus 1th index first, and I have plus 1th index second, and compare it to our S and E, and we can store that value into a vector of size 2. So let's say we made a vector of size 2. Let's name it as A, and we can store that value here, and then we can just store this A into a vector of answers, right? And we will be sorted there. Sorted is a very casually used term here, but we will be done with this. That's the right term. So Okay, for p dot size, okay, all we have to do is just let's make our a vector of type integer which have size. So here what I'm doing, I'm writing 2 which represents size of this vector. Okay, and now what we have to do is we have to check if our last, the e, our end of a pair is greater than equal to the start of what, I plus 1, because let me write it and I will explain this. I plus 1 first. So what I did here, let me explain. So I stored this e value, which let's say for the sake of it is 2. I stored it in e. Then I'm going through the I plus 1. I plus 1 would be, let's say this is our zeroth index, which store 1 and 2. And this is our first index, which is let's say 0 p0 current, right? P0, like from here I is equals to 0, right? So we are right now here, our I is at here, right? So what we are saying, I plus 1, so I plus 1 will be p1. So what it is doing, it is checking for I plus 1 first element, so this, so it is checking for this and checking whether 2 is greater than or equal to 3. So this is what it is doing. So let's say our loop is at zeroth index, I value is at 0, so our loop starts from 0, but we are saying there is one more pointer which is I plus 1 pointer, and it will check whether this element, the first element of this pair, is greater than 2 or not. So this is what it is doing, right? And this will check for our starting element also. And after doing that, we will store that in our a vector, and then we will store that a vector inside our answer vector, and then we will return it. So this is what we are doing. So if that's the case, check it and get the maximum out of it. So s would be, because we want sorry, our end should be the greater one, right? So we want s max. Max between whom? Max between the element of zeroth index, the second element of zeroth index, and the maximum of I plus 1th first element. I hope this is clear. Let me explain it again because I want it to be crystal clear. So this this is 1. Let's say this is zeroth index and it has 1 and 2, and let's say the pair after this is 3 and 6. So find e would be e would be what it will find the maximum between 2 and 3, and in our case the maximum between 2 and 3 is 3, so e would be 3. So in for this case this will become this, right? And we will write one more condition after this for this thing, so that we can find the interval, like the overlapping thing is sorted out. Okay, so where was I? So p plus 1 first, the max between our zeroth index second element. So max between our e and p I plus 1 for second. So I plus 1 second, not first, because first is obviously less than that. We want a greater element so that we can make an end of our interval, right? So we will check for the last element. If that is like a maximum, then we will make that as our end of our interval. I hope that makes sense. Else, else do what? else there is no overlapping. So our A first element would be what? Our A first element would be our S, right? Our S. A second element would be the size of our A vector is 2 only, so it will be holding only 0 and 1 at position 0 and 1. So E, okay, and our what? Our S would be P I plus 1, because we have to update the S value also and A value also to check for the next interval. So we are updating that. We are storing the value in vector, then we are storing that vector inside our answer vector, then we are updating the value of S and E, right? And then so that we can check for the next interval. Okay, so our S would be P first, and our E would be P plus 1 plus I plus 1 dot sec. Okay, let me recap this. I know this was a lot, so let me recap this. Okay, so what I did, I made a base condition, I made a pair, and I stored the value of interval in pair. I sorted that pair. I made an answer to store this value. So we want vector inside a vector. So how we can get that? So I made this a vector A, right? Then I said, okay, our pair vector which storing int and int in an int and int like this. So this is 0, this is 1, and this can be like the size of interval and all. So check for I0, we have to check for P at 0th. So we want this element. Let's say 1 and 2 is here. So we want this. So to get this, we said first, and if we want to have this, we will say second. So we got this, and then what we did? We loop through this, and we just keep on checking. We have stored this as S, we have stored this as E. So we will start from this and we will check for I plus 1. So if I is 0, it will check with the value of first index. If I is 1, it will check the value with the second index, and so on. We are checking and finding the maximum if there is an overlap. If there is no overlap, we will store it into our A, and then we will store this A here. Let's say A naught, then there will be A1 and like this, and we will keep on updating S and E because we have to check for the next, and for the next, like we have to check for this and this. So we will update this. So this is what we are doing till now. Okay, okay, so we have done this. What we have to do is now we have to just give back our answer with the size, obviously. So we were here, we will come out of this loop and we will say int n interval dot size. So all the function which we are seeing to check the overlap is here only. So outside that, it's just finding the here, it is just getting the size of an interval so that it can make the answer of the same size. So it will say answer dot push back. What we have to push? We have to push our first our S and E. So we have to push our F, sorry, S and E. So we have to push our S and E, and the loop will go on and keep on checking that, and we have to return that only. So we will have to return our A and S. So let's run this code. I know this is a lot, but I hope you got it. So there is a problem in what pushback. So p dot pushback. Why it's showing me an error? So vector. Mhm. So why it is showing me error? Let me check. P dot pushback interval intervals I not. Okay, it is showing me error because I am storing here pair and I have not. It should be inside a curly braces. So this is our parameter and this is our like p values which we are sending. I hope this will run now. So again there is an error p. Okay, semicolon is missing here. So these are silly mistakes. Hopefully, like you don't make it. I'm making here. So it is good that you can see how things are in reality. So let me go through this. Let me check. Okay, there is some memory error thing. Okay, what we are doing, we are wasting memories of answer dot interval p s and e s is equals to I plus 1 first. Okay, and this is also right answer. So what we are not doing, we are not here updating our answer. We have to say answer dot push back. We have to not back but back. Answer dot push back a, because we are storing that in a. We are not even storing that a into our answer. So it obviously it will show us error. And now what? So there is this intervals dot size answer s and e, and so hmm, let me move this here. Let me check. Mhm, we are updating first, second, pushback. Else also we are doing right. P plus 1. Um, this is also right. E is equals to max of if E. Like this is also true. This condition is also right. Then we are making a vector int of A size 2. This is also right. And vector inside a vector. Yeah, I think it is right. Then why it is showing error? Let me check what's the. So it's about memory only, but why? Let me go through this. Okay, so I got the like problem of this error, and it is very silly to be very honest. So it will not go till p dot size because obviously we are using I plus 1 here. So there we are like taking zeroth value, right? So there is a minus of one value which we are comparing with. So it will go from I p size minus one. I hope this should run now. Okay, now as you can see it is running, and yeah, like we stumbled upon some error, minor errors. So yeah, this actually tells you that there will be time when you will make mistakes and you have to just go through it. Coding is all about debugging, to be very honest. Coding is uh, 30% part of it, and debugging is your 70%. So yeah, so there's that. I hope this makes things clear. And if you want to read about this code, the link will be in the description. If you want to watch this same code in Hindi, the link will be in the description. I will see you on the next video.